Hey folks, I am Troy and you're watching TroyTube. I have a long and thorough video for you today that was actually filmed a couple of months ago. It is currently the middle of November, and as you recall, Hurricane Ian hit the Southwest Florida area and devastated the area and threw a lot of things off course for us and a lot of other people. And I just got around to editing and getting the video ready to publish. In this video, I go over the xTool D1 Pro 20-watt laser cutter and engraver. Now, you can buy the unit from Amazon or direct from xTool's website. There are links in the description down below that are affiliate links, and those do provide us with a small commission for the unit if you decide to purchase, and those are appreciated because it helps support our business and our channel. Now, you can buy the unit in several different bundles and sizes and variations. The one I purchased, as I mentioned, is the 20-watt diode laser, and it also came with several accessories. It came with the Honeycomb platform, which is what lays under the laser to hold your materials while you cut or engrave. It came with the air assist air pump module. Came with riser legs that will raise the unit up so you can put larger objects under the laser. And it also came with the RA2 Rotary Attachment, so it allows you to put round objects in it, and it will actually turn them while the laser engraves the object. And in this video, I go through the basic unboxing, assembly, and setup on the fly as I did it, and filmed it and walked through and talked through the different pieces that you're going to want to watch out for as you put it together, and give you my opinion of the unit overall. And then towards the end of the video, we actually download and install the software and do the basic sample project that came with the unit. And then there will be more videos later on that will show the rotary attachment. We'll talk about the riser legs, the air assist module, the honeycomb module, and all the different accessories that have with it. But in this video, it's there to show you how to get it assembled, set up, and at least going to where you can start learning and working with it. Now, as I mentioned, it is middle of November 2022. It's actually almost Thanksgiving, and xTool is running a Black Friday sale on this until December 1st. And depending on the bundle that you get, you can save up to about $300 to $400 to buy this unit, especially if you get the accessories. It looks like the more accessories you buy, the more discount you get and the more you save. I think the one that I bought it's somewhere around $400 or $500 savings right now. On their website, it's discounted and it shows that value. On Amazon, you have to clip the coupon, but it'll tell you how much you'll save there as well. So let's switch over to the actual video that I recorded a couple of months ago, and we'll go through this whole thing. Well, it is here. This is something I've been excited about to get in for a while, to check out. Got this from Amazon. This is the xTool D1 Pro 20-watt diode laser cutter, engraver, burner, whatever you want to call it. I actually got the laser. I've got the rotary tool attachment, so you can put round and cylindrical objects in it, and it will rotate it while the laser etches or cuts or whatever you're going to do to it. I've got the air assist module and the honeycomb working platform, and we're going to get this all unboxed and put it together, set it up, and take a look at what's there and how easy or difficult it might be to set up. I don't think it's going to be that bad based on what I've seen so far, but there's a few big boxes here. I actually am so excited I didn't even take this to the office where I can do it out on like a nice table or something, so I'm just going to do it right here in the floor of my home office and get it unboxed. I'll put the camera down and talk through this and see what all we have, and pretty excited, and we'll see how this goes. All right, so let's get this thing unboxed. This is the actual laser cutter. It's in a fairly large box, not too big. UPS delivered it. And we'll see what's inside here. All right, so on top we have a couple packets. Looks like it's probably books and software. And inside, over here is another box. Sounds like some small parts. And over here, this is the laser module itself. Pretty large, much larger than I expected. And then inside we have the unit with the rails. It looks like there's some different parts inside here, so it's going to be some assembly required. And that's the rail that the laser module mounts on. There's one of the motors. And when I pulled that piece out, it looks like there is a bunch of little round parts in here. So you don't want to throw that away. You don't want to discard that. Another rail with another motor, and you'll see this is the bands that it moves everything back and forth. And another rail. Then under here, it looks like the power supply. That looks like some lithium grease probably, and a couple of cables. There's a USB cable and another cable connector. And it looks like, oh, there's the power cord. So you're definitely going to want to go through all the foam packing in here and make sure you have all the parts out of it, because there are some that are kind of hidden under there. And it's packed very well. Very impressed with how they pack this thing for shipping. So that's everything in the box with the actual laser cutter itself. So the rails, power supply, cords. I'm not sure what these parts are yet. We'll find out here in a moment. Probably books and software, laser module, and probably a bunch of small parts is what this sounded like. So let's go ahead and get the books opened up and see what we're working with. So we have two packets here. The first one just has the xTool logo on the front of it. We'll open it up and see what's in it. So definitely the books, instructions, quick start guide, magical things made by xTool. So there's a book here with a lot of pictures of example projects. Here's a thank you card asking you for some feedback and a review. And we'll open up the other packet, see what's in it. Sample materials. So this is a piece of metal, some different materials down in here, some cork, a piece of wood. I'm not sure what else is in there, but great sample material pack there. Good stuff. So now let's see what's in this box. So we have some zip ties. Okay, a box of bunch of tiny screws and parts and a screwdriver, and this is safety goggles that you can wear. It looks like the laser has a shield around it, so I don't know that you really need these if you're not looking at it and just letting it run, but if you're looking at where the laser is actually exposed and touching the material or anything, you definitely want to wear the safety goggles to do that. So let's take a look at the quick start guide and see what we're dealing with. So the first page is the unbox and check off all the parts that you have. Looks like I have everything that's in here as far as I can tell. I didn't like pull all those little screws out and count and everything, but I'm going to trust that they're in there. And safety goggles. All in those little round parts. These are the risers that it's going to sit on. So they're kind of like the little legs that it's going to lift up. And I would say that's probably for using the Honeycomb platform to do the work on. So the first part we're going to need is this right here. And it looks like this part. It does tell you that there are no scissors included in the pack. Fortunately, I've got a set right here. I prefer wire snips, but I don't have any, so I'll just use scissors. And it says to cut the zip tie off of it. You want to be very careful when you're doing this that you're cutting only the zip ties. You don't want to snip one of these belts accidentally. And we have an illustration here that shows us how it goes together. So we'll see if we can identify the parts here. I don't know that there's any labels on it or anything, so you kind of have to visually identify the parts. And that looks like part A. And here's part B. Not too hard to identify. They're quite a bit different as far as how they're constructed and laid out. So I don't think there's going to be any problems here with putting it together. And here is that part and this part. I'm not sure which way this goes. You're going to see here in a moment. And it looks like I have it correct. These parts slide together. So yeah, there's I'll turn this around so I can show you. There's little slots there where the USB and the power switch goes, and this kind of slides together. Like that. So the same thing for all four sides. It looks like it's fitted pretty tight, so it does go together rather tight. And there are some screw holes to line up on each corner with some recessed screws that go down in there. So we'll get our toolkit and our screws out. Any more manufacturers do a really good job of giving you a lot of the tools that you need to do this, because and honestly, that's a pretty nice little screwdriver. Usually they put these little cheap things in there, but that's pretty nice. And we'll look at our toolkit here. Let's see if we can get the screws out without dumping everything else out. So we have a couple of different size screws here. Looks like maybe 3 different sizes. So we'll get them separated and sorted and see which ones we need for this part. So there's 4 long screws, 4 medium, and a bunch of little short screws. So we'll see which ones we need. Actually, there's 5 medium screws. Not sure if we'll need that or if that's an extra one. Sometimes they put extra parts in these things so that you don't, so if you accidentally lose a part or something messes up, then you've got extra parts. But we'll see. And according to the drawing, we need the little short screws. And we have to turn around the screwdriver so that we can use the hex end of it. And one goes in each corner, it looks like. And it looks like we have a bunch more to put in the ends, all little screws. We'll see how the rest of this assembly goes, but so far I'm going to give this thing a 5-star review on assembly, ease, and quality, because the parts are machined extremely well. Very tight tolerances, very sharp edges. Just, I couldn't say enough about that. The screwdriver is really nice. It's a hex wrench on one end and a Phillips on the other, so you can reverse that. But wow, I'm just going to say that I am thoroughly impressed with the quality of the assembly and how well this thing's machined. So when it's assembled, there's basically a screw that goes in the top in each corner, and then 3 that goes on the rails through the end on each corner. And then there's a couple more that go in to hold these belts tight, but we're not there yet in the instructions. Okay, so the screws are in all 4 corners of this thing, and it is tight. I mean, this thing is firm. It's the frame is aluminum, and it is very heavy. Pretty impressed. Very large too, much larger. It's actually larger than what I thought it was going to be. All right, so now we need 3 of the long screws. Actually, it looks like 2 of the long screws. And they didn't label the screws like A, B, C, D, I don't think. Let me go back and look at the page here. And they just give the size of them, but they are color coded. So you have the short screws, then you have the medium and long ones, and these have blue, a little bit of blue paint on them, and these have a little bit of orange or red paint on them. So easy to identify, easy instructions. Glad to see that. So these 2 long screws go in this little tensioner for the belt. And so there's one on each side. Now this one is kind of loose in here, so you have to pull it and kind of pull it tight over to the edge and turn it so that the screw hole is facing the rail. It's a little bit hard to line those up, but you just kind of jiggle a little bit and it'll fall into place, and we'll tighten that up. I don't guess that's a tensioner. I think it's just the holder for the pulley. But this belt definitely is loose, so I'm assuming that there's going to be some work to do in a bit to tension that up or something, so we'll see. Okay, so now we need this little rod that was kind of hidden as this piece of styrofoam here. Okay, so we need this other part, and this is in our little parts box, and it looks like we put that on the rod and just kind of slide it down on there, and this is going to go in one side of the unit, and I need to figure out which side it goes in, so we're going to turn it up like it is in the picture. Alright, I can see by the orientation of this part I have it turned around, so we're going to flip it over. And it looks like this probably needs to move to the top. And it's loose, there's the belt. Okay, one thing I noticed here I didn't see before, it says the screws are used to set the tension of the timing belts. Do not fully tighten them, otherwise the timing belts may be damaged. So I didn't tighten them real tight, but I did tighten them all the way down. So I'm going to loosen them just a little bit. So maybe just give it a couple of turns so that they're got a little play in them. And on this part it says, if you can't put the shaft through the timing belt, the possible cause of the timing belt is set too tight, you can adjust the tension by turning the screw. And that is exactly what I just mentioned, that little screw. Okay, now I have my orientation here. The one thing and this is very hard to convey inside of instructions anyway, is which way to turn something or orient it. But I can see here, there's a little, I think this is a Wi-Fi antenna that's here in the bottom. So that's how I'm identifying where this goes and which side it goes on. So this belt goes in a little hole down here. And I see what it does now. See this hammer and knot. Let me move it over here a little bit. But this shaft, this motor lines up, and this coupling, this little piece that slides, goes on there, and it's going to join this rod to that. Now, I think what I need to do before I put that in is to pull this belt down and get the slack out of it, so that the belt goes around this little gear right here. So we'll see if we can get that down there. if we just kind of force that one side down, we'll get a little loop that we can pull out. And hold that there. And the one side takes up all the slack. This side doesn't go anywhere. This side over here is where you get all the slack. And then turn that around, we'll put this gear and put it in the little hole. And we need to loosen this timing belt a little bit using that screw until it goes in. I've got to loosen it till it drops into that hole down here. And there it is. Now we need to make sure this little thing is over here out of the way. Over here and put it on the motor. And now if I turn that little piece will move up and down like it's supposed to. So now here's the little coupling that joins these two pieces together. So we'll tighten that up. So now that's on the motor here. And this motor has a shaft that comes out this side and this side. And there's a belt on each rail. And when you turn that, it will move them up and down. Now, I need to do some adjusting here, I think, because I have one down here and one up here. So I wasn't paying attention when I did that. So I think I'm going to have to adjust those where they're all the way down on one side. But we'll take care of that here in just a minute. Okay, so the next page says slide the two sliders all the way down to the front plate. So the problem is I've already tightened that, so it's not moving freely because when I move one, it moves the other. So I'm going to loosen this so that the motor will slip inside of this instead of turning. And now I can push this one down all the way and push this one down all the way. And now I can tighten this back up. So I'm showing you the little mistakes that you can make when you're doing something like this all together here, and we're learning all together. But good instructions, because the next page, I was wondering about that, and the next page said to do exactly that. And I've already tightened the screws. On the next part, it says we're going to install this little connector cable. It has a twist tie on it. We have two little cables here. One's a little tiny one and one's a longer one. We need the longer one at this point. And with it oriented just like it is in the book here, it says, it has a tip here. It says, pay attention to the front and back sides of the connector inserted properly. So what it's talking about is this piece right here has, if we can get it to focus, just has like a little different shape on one side than the other, so it has to go in one way or the other. And not only is it keyed to it has to be turned a certain way, the two ends are different. So one side connects to the motor and the other side connects to the circuit board over here. So the next one is zip ties. So we have our little zip ties that came with our toolkit, and they are all the same size. So it looks like we need 3 zip ties, and with that we are going to zip tie the cable down, and the way it shows it is that it's on the inside of this rail. So we're going to put our zip tie through, make sure that cable is on the inside of that rail. We'll snip those off. And now we need this part. So we're going to cut our zip ties off of this. Again, you want to be very careful cutting these zip ties. Make sure you don't cut any of the belts or the cords and cables. And it does have a note here to cut off the white zip ties, not the black ones. The black ones are already on here holding these cables in place just like the ones you put here. And now we're going to lay the unit back down again. And it's helpful, I try to keep it oriented just like the picture because it's real easy to, it's a lot easier to see where things are going when you do that. So we'll flip it around here. Bring these up a little closer. And by looking at that, the orientation is like this with the motor over here to the left. And one of the things I'll say when you're putting things together like this, you want to be careful with these cables and where you're putting them at, because sometimes you can end up with a cable looped through something or on the wrong side. And fortunately these have plugs on them, so it wouldn't be hard to change them. But I have seen some that were very difficult to change. You had to almost disassemble the entire thing in order to fix that. So in the end of these rails is the screw holes here. So it looks like it takes 2 screws on each end. And it's going to set down inside of the rails like that, so the screws are going to go through the ends. And this is where we need the orange screws, the medium size screws. Now, the one thing I would caution people against, it's probably pretty tempting to grab this piece and throw it in a cordless drill, but I would not recommend that. Stick with the hand tool because these are very fine threaded screws. It's aluminum. It'd be real easy to cross thread one of those and strip it out with a cordless drill if you weren't very careful. Alright, so now we have those screws in, and the rail to guide the laser is installed. Now the next page shows where to plug in the wires. So we'll lift this up. Now these plugs go in down here. It's kind of underneath of this rail. It's a little bit hard to get to, but there's nothing you can really do with it, so we're just going to have to reach back there and plug them in. Again, these are keyed, so they only go in a certain way. So just make sure you have them turned the right way so that the little slots are lined up. Okay, so those are plugged in now, and so far that white plug was the hardest thing I've done so far on the assembly. It's, you know, I'm a big guy, I've got big hands, so most people probably wouldn't have so much problem with that, but it took me a couple of minutes to get that plugged in there, but not too big of a deal. And then we have this little short cable that goes over here and connects these two parts together. Now this part, I believe, goes on the laser module once we install it. So now we have to put some more zip ties on to hold a cable in place. And so I'm going to turn it upside down to do this part. And we're going to move this all the way to the other end so that we stretch this cable out. And the zip ties go right here. Looks like we want 3 zip ties on this. Now I'll point out that it shows in the book this cable being zip tied here, not on the inside, not on the outside. So it's kind of along the side of this rail, I guess. So we're going to put this on here. And pay attention to the holes. It shows 3. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 holes here. So it looks like we use this one, and then the one on the end, and we skipped this one. So we'll see what that's for. And according to the book, we're 80% done. I think there's a lot more after this because we still have all the little parts, but we're getting there. And now it's asking for the laser module. So we're going to get this out and open it up. There's a little bag in here, a little bubble wrapped, and has a little, looks like a bushing or something in there. And there is our laser module. And this piece adjusts. This is, I'm going to assume this is to focus the laser and adjust the gap between the shield and the material that you're cutting or burning. And I notice there's a little flip down thing here that seems to maybe be a measuring device. There's some little measuring marks there, so we'll find out what all that's about. And here's some information about the laser. This is supposed to be a 20-watt diode laser. It says output power 20 watts, input voltage 24 volts, so that's the power supply. And looking at the unit here, and we need our little parts box. And it looks like we need this little fitting here, a little parts box. This, I'm assuming, is probably for the air assist tool. Put that, see how that goes in here. Oh, I see. It goes in through this slot and threads into the side of the head here on the laser. What's interesting is it doesn't go in there because there's a little tiny sticker over it. And I don't see anywhere where it says to remove that. So just take a little knife and pry that little sticker off of there. And that's probably for when you're not using the air assist, that has to be covered up, I would think. And once you screw that in there, the picture shows it pointed up, and in our parts box is a little plug. And I'm sure that we'll probably pull that out a little bit when we hook up the actual air assist tool that we have. And now we need to flip this back over. And it looks like the unit just slides right down in here. And there's a little thumb screw here that just kind of locks it into place. Now, I'm assuming that I have this lined up right. The quick start guide doesn't really say, but I kind of leveled this piece up right here with the top of that when I locked it down. And now, this cable comes back over top here. There's a little slot to feed it into right here. Make sure you feed it in the proper way because it is keyed, like I said. It only plugs in one direction. So it goes behind this slot as a holder and then plugs in right here on the side of the motor. And next, out of our parts box, we have a memory card. So we'll take this out carefully. And over here on the circuit board, you see this little white plug. There's a little flat slot right here underneath of it. And that memory card goes with the little contacts down. It goes right in there. And if you push it, it'll click into place. And to remove it, you push it again and it clicks out. Congratulations, you've completed the installation. So, the unit is fully assembled, and it was really easy. It was quite easy. So the next page kind of gives you a rundown of what is here. And for example, I didn't even realize this is a button here, and there's a little light next to it, an indicator light. Down here, of course, this is the laser module, this connector, and then there's a hole for fitting an exhaust pipe that goes to this connector. There's the nozzle connector that we installed, and then this little thing is the focal length setting bar, which is what I expected, that little fold down tool that I mentioned where there's measurements here. Then USB ports and everything are on the side of it. Power port, power switch. And the next pages go into setting it up as far as the adjustments, and gives guidance on how to adjust those screws on the ends to tension the timing belts. So we're going to do that real quick. And again, those are on each side. Over here on the end is the screw that adjusts the tension of that timing belt. So I'm going to adjust that, and it doesn't really say exactly how tight it should be. My experience has been that belts typically should be tight enough that you can twist them and they will go up to a 90 or a 90 degree angle from their normal position. And so that's how I'm going to adjust these and see how that goes. So they're fairly tight, not too tight, but definitely tight enough that they won't slip. And then I'll do the same thing to the other side. If I move the rail back and forth, it seems like it has a pretty smooth operation. Now the next part says to set the position of the laser module. Put the focal length bar down. Loosen the thumb screw on the other side and slide the module upward or downward. After determining the position, tighten the thumb screw and put the focal length setting bar back. So it looks like by the manual to do this, you need this little piece right here. So you take this out of the package, and it doesn't really look like it when you get out of the package, but there's multiple pieces here. It looked like there was one thin one and one thick one, but they're all for the same thickness, and you just need one of these, it looks like. So we'll turn this around again so that you can see a little better. So it says to put this underneath, flip down the little bar, loosen the thumb screw and slide it down, and then tighten it, then flip the bar back up. And I guess that sets the gap between the laser and the material. And then the next page explains those little measurement markings on the side of the laser. Basically, it's when you're cutting thicker materials. So if you're cutting a material, for example, that's 8 millimeters thick, you'll want to put that scale on 4 and move it up just a little so that it's the correct distance away from the surface of what you're burning, cutting, engraving, and so forth. And next it shows to download and install the software. It says you can operate the xTool D1 Pro by using our official xTool software, Creative Space, or the third-party software, Lightburn. Lightburn is a very popular software to use with lasers, but you do need to purchase it. It doesn't come with this unit. What comes with it is the xTool software. So we're going to download that and install it first. I probably will get Lightburn because I really am interested in that software. And then there are some example projects it shows here to cut. And then the next pages show if you're using the rotary tool, which we do have. I'll probably do that in another video. You can connect it to the unit, and I guess that's how it communicates with between the two pieces to know how to rotate it as it moves. Then in the back of the quick start guide, it shows how to clean, remove and clean the laser module because it will get dirty in there from smoke and so forth. And that's it for the quick start guide. So there we have unboxed and fully assembled xTool D1 Pro 20 watt laser, ready to use pretty much. But in the next this next part of the video, I'm going to connect up some of the other pieces here and get the thing going, and we'll see what we can do. The next thing we're going to get out is the Honeycomb working panel. This will be the piece that goes under the laser for when you're working, and it holds it up, allows airflow and things to the material. So we have a box of corner part covers, it looks like there, and shrink wrap, and be very careful cutting this. You also want to be a little bit careful handling this because this is metal and those pieces are very sharp, very easy to cut yourself on that. All right, and so there's the honeycomb piece, and this sheet came with it. Now I haven't looked yet, but I'm assuming this probably goes under to protect the surface of whatever you're working on. And we'll see what these corner pieces go on here. Now if you notice, the honeycomb piece has measurements down both sides, and it also has these little magnets that will hold your material in place. If you have thin material like faux leather or something like that you're cutting, then these can help hold that in place for you. Now down in the box, it didn't come out when I dumped everything out, was this little piece of paper that shows the honeycomb working panel that's in here, the aluminum panel, and the corner protectors. Now I didn't see any paperwork that describes the honeycomb platform and how you're supposed to use those pieces, and it's certainly not in the quick start guide and not in an instruction booklet, so I don't know if maybe there was an instruction booklet left out of here, but I think it's pretty straightforward. Just by looking at it, like I said, it looks like this goes underneath of your panel to protect your surface underneath, and these corner protectors go on each corner on the front and back. These are kind of soft rubber pieces, and just kind of peel off the adhesive. And put one on the corner of the top and bottom of each corner of this thing. Real easy to reach under there with a utility knife and just kind of peel that paper off. and the adhesive seems to stay on the rubber piece really good. All right, so there you have the Honeycomb working platform. I've installed the little corner protectors on the top and bottom of each corner. Again, we have the magnets and then the aluminum sheet that goes underneath. Now you notice it's blue, and this sheet has a protective film on it that you have to remove. So just kind of rub the corner of it or the edge and get it started, and it should peel right off. If you can't get it started, you might have to take a knife or something to get under the edge of it. So the way this sets up is that goes underneath, this goes on top of it, and then the laser cutter will lay on top of that. So now we just set the laser over top of it like that. Now that we have this piece in here, this honeycomb platform, we're going to need to adjust that again. Now I believe we're going to want to do this on top of whatever material we're working with normally to set the focal length, but in this case I'm just going to go ahead and adjust it real quick here just to get it, because it's kind of scraping this thing right now, and we'll go ahead and do that and tighten it, and so we'll flip that little bar down and go ahead and tighten it, and then remove our little card. And for the most part we're set up, and we'll want to do that again once we have some material on there and we're ready to cut. So the next thing we're going to look at is the air assist air pump, and go ahead and get this out. Might as well do it all, right? So there we have some books. Let's see what we have in this box. That's our air hose, it looks like. We have a little nozzle there, looks like probably a replacement nozzle for the laser. And here is the air pump and power cord, and it looks like a replacement shield for the front of the laser. I guess if your laser came, or maybe they have some models that don't come with some of the parts, so it is all included here as well, so we're probably going to have a couple extra parts. So let's go ahead and get all this out of the plastic. Alright, so we've got out all of our parts from the air assist box, and it came with like an extra piece nozzle for the laser and an extra shield, but it's a different size, so I think these are for a different model to retrofit the air assist piece on it. So this is basically an air pump. We have an air hose, and we have a bunch of little parts here. So we'll take a look at the book and see what it says about putting this thing together. So in the parts we have two little connector hoses. We have this little metal piece, which I think might be for another model laser, but we'll see here. I think this one has that part built in, but we'll see what happens. A couple connectors. We have a couple screws and wrenches and some tape. And instructions look pretty good as well. So here's the pump, and it looks like we need one of these little pieces of hose to go over that. Just kind of slide it on. And then it looks like we need this straight connector. And these pieces, I've worked with these with my 3D printer, and these little pieces snap in and out. So that's what locks the hose in there. So we'll go ahead and put that in. And feed the hose down into it. And it'll automatically grab. And if you want to take the hose back out, you have to push down on that ring and then pull it out. So the next several steps in the instructions show putting the nozzle and the shield on, which are already on this unit. And I was correct, this little metal bracket is the piece that's built in, so we don't need that. So it looks like for this model, we're going to jump from step number 2 all the way to step number 8. And that is to take this hose, feed it down through here. Just like I said earlier, we'll be removing this little plug and feed that down in there. And this is also another replacement for that. So all of those little parts you can put away. Now the interesting thing is it has this tape, but there's nothing in the instructions that says what you're supposed to do with the tape. I'm going to assume that it's probably that if you have air leaks that you can seal them up around the hose. Otherwise I see no purpose for it really. And this apparently just kind of sits behind it or wherever you can put it. I'm actually going to set it down on the floor. That way I can plug it in back here. And there's an inline power switch. And it works. So it's a little noisy, not too bad. It's a little louder than the little pump on the air pump on a fish aquarium. So it's not too bad. It's probably not going to be noticeable by the time you're using everything and making use of the unit. So now we'll get all the cords out, the power cord, the USB cable, the power adapter, and plug everything in. The power adapter plugs in over here on the side, as does the USB cable. So now we're going to move over to the computer and download the software and see if we can fire this thing up. We're going to download the xTool software. So we're going to go to xTool.com, and then we're going to click on the software menu at the top. And then we're going to have a choice of downloading it for Windows or Mac OS. Of course, I'm using Windows, so we're going to click on that and download the software. And it looks like it's 127 megabytes to download. And I noticed while it's downloading, there's a link here for software updates. So after we install it, we'll come back and see if we need that or not. The download may contain the latest version, but we'll see after we install it if it is or not. So now that it's finished downloading, we can either click on it down here at the bottom. If you don't see the file down here at the bottom of your screen, it'll typically be in your downloads folder. So if you go to your downloads, you should see xTool Creative Space. It says it is version 1.0 beta, so I believe there are going to be some updates, but we'll install it and then see which version it is. So we double click that and start the installation. And when I click finish, we're going to go ahead and let it launch Creative Space so we can take a look at it. It is asking me if I want to allow it through my firewall, and I have to do that in order for it to work properly. And here is our Creative Space. So looking over here on the right side of the screen, it says install the RNDIS driver. So click to install it. So now that that is installed, I notice over here on the right side it says device not connected. It says connect device. Now I'm going to turn the unit on. Now I can see after I turned it on, the indicator light came on. I'm going to click connect device, and there it is. So I clicked on it, and now it says there is a new firmware version found. So we're going to go ahead and update the firmware. It says before the firmware update, ensure the upload switch is turned on or update may fail. So there's a little switch on the circuit board that we're going to flip. And it looks like this switch needs to be pushed over to the right, and I see on the circuit board there is a place right here where it says upload over on this side. I'm clicking that it's on, and it says device disconnected, downloaded, and it's updating now. Always pay attention to the screen because I did notice it popped up and said unit disconnected, but here on this screen it says disconnection may occur during software update. So we'll just be patient and wait. And now it says firmware update succeeded. And we'll click connect again. And everything looks just fine. Now what we're going to do is take a look at the software and see if we need any updates. If I click on the menu here, info, there is a weekly updates and tips and tricks. Projects menu, looks like it will get some sample projects from xTool. Then there's a support menu which launches their website, and then the shop which also launches their website. And over here on the right side there's a little gear. If we click that, it shows our device, the serial number, firmware, and the Wi-Fi setting. It is not currently connected, so I will connect it to my Wi-Fi network. And yes, my Wi-Fi network is called unknown. And there it is connected. Working parameters, positioning mode, red cross or laser spot, so we'll see what that's all about. The red cross offset, I'm assuming this will be for the accuracy of the positioning. Flame alert, so the xTool has a sensor in it that will detect any kind of fire or flame, and it will shut down immediately when it does so, which is a great safety feature. Stops when moved, I'm assuming that means if you move the unit while it's running, it's going to stop running. And there's a limit switch which I believe controls, so that it knows when it's all the way to the edge. There are switches that it detects when it reaches the edge. Then up here on the top left corner there is a settings, and we can change this from metric to imperial units. So we're going to put it on inches. Of course, we're in English. Logging level, it by default is on info. There's probably, if you have problems and support needs to get to it, debug usually gives you a lot more detail on a log as far as what's happening. And then there's error and warning, which looks like they're probably lower than what info is. So we're going to leave that on the default. And then there is a software update. So here is where you check for updates rather than downloading them directly, I guess. Now the interesting thing is this says the latest version 1.0.0.beta 8.0. So let's go back and look at the xTool website real quick just to see what was out there. So if we go back to this software page and go to software updates, it looks like weekly update volume 6, and then down here it says beta 7 was on 9/1/2022. Today is 9/15/2022. So we're going to leave that alone because it is indeed on the latest version of the software. In the quick start guide, there is a page that says create with example projects on page 32. That's with the guide that came with this unit at the time of this filming anyway. And at the bottom there's a QR code you can scan to go directly to the page, or it says to go to, in the creative space software, go to support, which opens their support page. Then click on the xTool D1 Pro. And then down here is the project tutorials, and you'll see a video tutorial and example project for making a phone holder. So we're going to, I guess, cut and etch this phone holder out of the piece of the wood that came with the unit. We'll quickly scan down through this page to take a look first. There is a video here that I'll watch in just a moment. I'll save you the trouble of, or the boring time of watching that with me. You can go watch that on your own. There is a note here that says the software LaserBox Basic does not support the D1 Pro. So apparently they had some other software that was more basic, and it just tells you to download Creative Space, which we have done, and we have installed it. And what you need, it says you need your computer, the cords, the cutter, the sheet of aluminum. There is a smaller sheet in with the unit that you can work with without the honeycomb thing, but since we have that, we're going to just go ahead and use it. And tells you to hook everything up, and this is where you set the height of the laser. So it says place the basswood board under the working area, and then use the focal length bar to set that. So we'll go do that real quick. And it says the processing starts at the point positioned in the center of the red cross light beams. So we're going to see what happens here once we put some material in and line it up to get started. There is some more here, so we'll come back to this in just a moment. Since this is all set up and already finished, we're going to jump down to step number 8. It says download the project file to the disk and import it into xTool Creative Space. And it doesn't really look like it here, but this is a hyperlink. So until you hover over it, you don't see that it's a hyperlink, but you click on that and it will download that file. And then we can go back to our software. We'll go to the File menu, Open Project. We'll go to our Downloads and open that phone holder project. And we see the image here. It looks like the purple lines are going to be cut lines, and this is going to be engraved. And it says put your name in here. So if I click on that, I can come over here and edit. And I'll go ahead and just put TroyTube on there. And let's just go ahead and put my website, TroyTube.net. Now the piece of wood that I've put in here is it's 3 millimeters thick. Its seam thickness is the sample wood that came with it. I made a couple mistakes trying to do the sample project, so I had this piece of wood which is very similar. It looks like it might be a little bit harder on here. I think this is probably maple, so I'll probably change the material selection in the software for that, but I'll go ahead and line it up, put it in here. Looks like it's going to work just fine. I'm going to go ahead and set the focal length again just to be sure. So we'll put that under there and flip the little arm down, raise it up. And it should start right where that little crosshair is, the red. I'm not sure if you can see that on camera or not, but we'll get it started. And it looks like you can see it on the camera just fine. So I'm going to go over to the software and see if we can get this started now. So over here, we're going to go ahead and leave this on 3 millimeter basswood plywood because I think it's pretty close to maple. And this wood we're working with, I'm pretty sure is 3 millimeters thick as well. So we're going to go ahead and click process. And according to this, it's going to start right here where this dot is. So I've positioned the crosshairs on the unit. And so I'm going to turn on the air assist pump here in just a moment and go ahead and click start and get this thing going. So there you have the xTool D1 Pro 20-watt laser cutter engraver with some accessories that came bundled with it in the package that I bought. A couple of years ago, I bought a little, is actually a 0.5 watt laser cutter that was smaller than this one, just to play around with and see what I could do and to learn a little bit. Then I decided, let's get this larger one that can actually cut things and do more with it, and start getting into some of the laser stuff a little bit more and learning more about it before I upgrade to a larger unit that can really cut just about anything. Again, links to purchase are in the video description down below, and up until December 1st, 2022, they are having a Black Friday sale that you can save somewhere between about $300 to $500 depending on what bundle you buy and which accessories you get with it. On their website, it shows the discount. On Amazon, you click the coupon and it'll tell you what the savings are as well. So if you use those links, again, that's very appreciated because that helps support our company and our channel and what we do. So if you have any questions or comments, post them down below the video.